Are you serious? Are you serious? Good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Paul Begley, and this is the coming apocalypse. And we have a alert, a prophecy alert, a red star alert. To be quite honest with you, a red star has been spotted. Uh, People in quite a few witnesses, Cape Town, South Africa, have seen a red star coming from the southern hemisphere. That's Cape Town, South Africa. Let me tell you all about it in just a second. But first, according to the CDC, 73.6% of adults are overweight, and a further 40% of those adults are obese. This is why I'm going to highly recommend including this amazing supplement into your daily routine. It contains naturally sourced ingredients from Mother Earth at www.trimwithpaul.com. That's www.trimwithpaul.com. Let it help support the weight loss. Its main ingredient is called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA for short, which has been shown to reduce fat storage while speeding up fat breakdown. The CLA in it essentially hinders the body's ability to store fat in favor of supporting the body's ability to burn fat. Try it today. Save 51% plus several additional free bonuses. Order it now at www.trimwithpaul.com. That's www.trimwithpaul.com. You'll be glad you did. Okay, so Thursday night, if you were watching, Heidi was hosting a great show with Mike from around the world. Thank you guys for your prayers. Of course, I had surgery Tuesday, and I have not been able really to sit at this desk, and I'm hurting now. Okay, so I'm not going to do much. But I am going to share this with you because it is relevant to the Bible prophecy when Jesus said in the last days, there shall be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars, distress of nations with perplexity, and the sea and the waves will be roaring. Men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things coming upon the earth, for the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to come to pass, he said, look up, lift up your head, for your redemption is drawing nigh. Let's go to, here's Mike from around the world, conversation he had with Heidi on Thursday night about the red star or this red object coming and the effects of it and how it's tied to UFO disclosure, or is it confusion? Oh, you gotta be able to hit the button, right? Yeah. Okay, give me 1 second here. For whatever reason, I can't because I don't know what I'm doing. Someday I'll get this right. Someday I will get it all right. I will be able to be technically astute. But right now, I can't even find where to push the button. That's not good. Where did it go? Okay, hang on. What? Wait, was that it? Was that it? No, that's not it. Where did it go? It was all set up, ready to go. Hang with me, everybody, and I'll get it. This is why I shouldn't be trying to do stuff on my own. Unbelievable that I can't find that. Well, maybe I'll do it this way, and maybe I'll find it. Okay. Yeah, that was the end of it. So here we go. We'll get it. It's worth hearing. Okay, so in other words, the sound is not working. I'll fix it. Unbelievable. I will fix it. I'll play it through here.
It, it throws it out. You can have a season, something like that. But as far as being precise, no, because there's no way to really track the absolute speed of this thing. Um, but it will start to exchange chemicals with the sun. It will have its most direct interaction with the sun. I personally believe that's when our skies are going to be red, not only by reason of thick smoke, because it's going to start setting volcanoes off everywhere, right?
Mm.
That small subtle change will shift the land masses. And when that happens, we have magma underneath these land masses. That magma is going to find a way out. It's under high pressure. It's looking for a way out. So we should see multiple eruptions, but sustained eruptions, not necessarily, big devastating eruptions, but think about 300 more volcanoes going off and they don't stop, something like that. Um, we'll start seeing things like that. Then, of course, the earthquakes will come intermittently with that, and they will be powerful, not small. But that's only the beginning, because then we'll have those pressure differences. Um, for example, if the pressure changes, like some of these high and low pressure systems, if the pressure of these storms continues to build, then it's a known fact that within a very short time, we could see the oceans boil because of a
Mm.
pressure change. See, the temperature could be, for example, if the ambient temperature is 97 degrees, the oceans can actually boil with a small temperature change, right? They can actually boil. It's kind of like going from the coastline of Carolina to Denver, Colorado. You're going to have a different boiling point based on altitude because of pressure. Well, the same thing with the pressure of the atmosphere. If it changes, your boiling point changes also. So that's a boiling off of the oceans. That means no water for anybody. Things like that will begin to happen.
Yeah. So you sound like Matthew 24. It's pretty much what you're sounding like.
Well, I believe somehow they're tied,
Hmm.
of what Jesus was telling us what would come. But he said something that is a big caution to me. He said that, and I know people liken this to the giants, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm gonna switch it on. I'm gonna focus on one little thing in Matthew. He said, uh, we're like the days of Noah were when they were buying and selling, eating, drinking, get married, given into marriage. He said, until the day Noah entered into the ark, right? They
Hmm.
knew not, they knew not until the floodwaters came, right? They didn't know anything
Hmm.
until it actually overtook them.
Hmm.
Well, the world, because they normalize everything, because they're always explaining away everything, they're going to continue to do that
Hmm.
until they cannot, right?
Hmm.
So for Christians, it's up to us to look to each other. to really start not depending on the news, but to look to one another, right? And then always stay in the Word of God, but to really have discussions about this so that we can't depend on media. We should know that by now,
Right.
right? They didn't tell us that 9/11 was going to happen.
Mm.
They haven't predicted any earthquakes. They haven't predicted any volcanic explosions. But people on the internet that are of Christian community folks, they have, right? So we just have to utilize each other to get that picture and not forget, one another, right? So that we
Right.
can understand what's happening, because it's going to overtake everybody. If they're waiting on some official report, they can forget it. Just like this UFO disclosure. If they're waiting on the government to disclose officially something in favor of the UFOs and people believe in stuff, they forget it.
Right.
They're not going to disclose that. This is almost like look what they're doing. They say they're going to release this video and that thing they have. They're trickling out things to tie people up, to keep people looking at them, right? In the meanwhile, we have people having too many encounters. What was it? 400 or 500 people saw a specific thing 3 days ago. Where's that at? Las Vegas. That happened at the beginning of the year. It was another almost 1,000 people were sitting there watching something. In China, we had thousands watching something. In Japan, hundreds and if not thousands of people watching something. So people are seeing things, people are talking about it, but they're still waiting for the government to announce it. They're not going to confirm, things like that. But they're not. They're going to be, their hand's going to have to be forced. It's going to have to be forced. But people are going to see it with their own eyes. And when they do, I hope they don't fall apart, because it's not, it's not something fake. It isn't.
I'm so sorry for all my technical problems, but as you heard Mike say, this thing that happened in Cape Town, South Africa, you're soon going to see volcanoes, as many as 300 going off at one time. So when they spotted this red star in Cape Town, South Africa, coming up from the south, and how many times did Mike tell us that we would see this thing coming from the south? That we would literally see it coming from the south, and that it would coming from the southern hemisphere, coming first back from the backside of the sun. He told us 2 weeks ago that soon people are going to start to see it, but it will be explained away by the media and probably by even the government officials. Okay, so that is the time we're living in now. I mean, we're absolutely living in that time right now, where people are literally going to be, there's going to be all kinds of false sightings, and then there's going to be, because people are going to take matters in their own hands, and they're going to create false declarations, false sightings, that will be masked with confusion from the media and even from the government agencies. This is to keep everybody off balance, and off stride. Now, Gil Brazard, in one of our webinars, matter of fact, it was this one here. Let me find it. Where'd that one go? The Effects of Planet X. If you haven't seen this one, you should. I had it here. Here it is. Yeah, this one right here. Gil Brazard, in this, if you don't have this webinar, you should go to my website and order it right now so I can ship it to you today. But Gil Brazard told us the timeline that we would start to see this thing. His opinion was we would see it maybe in the spring of 2023 or the spring of 2024. But then he said, that it's possible that we'll see it just before the feast of 2023. And he puts that in this timeline on this webinar we did 2 years ago called Planet X, the effects of Planet X, the summit, the effects of Planet X, and you can get it. So here we are, July of 2023, and this red star spotted in the southern hemisphere by a lot of witnesses down in Cape Town, South Africa. Mike immediately talks about it. And even when Heidi kind of goes away from it, beginning of the show, Heidi talks about it with him. But at the end of the show, even without a question, Mike says, did I answer that question? He purposely goes back to talk about this red star. And he ties it to UFO disclosures. That part of it's tied together, he said. Now, I went into the Bible to look at a couple things in Matthew 24. It said these words. Okay, you know all the signs. Jesus was asked the question. They said, tell us the sign of thy coming, the end of the world. And Jesus says, look, there's a lot of things. Earthquakes and wars and famines and, all kinds of stuff. And the abomination of desolation and the persecution, and pray that your flight not be in the winter. But then after he tells you false Christ and false prophets and all these things, you get all the way down to Matthew 24:28. And Jesus says in verse 27, Matthew 24:27, he says, for as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately, he said, after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man. The sign, not the Son of Man, the sign of the Son of Man. So in other words, the moon's going to turn to blood. The sun's going to be darkened. The stars are going to be falling from the heavens. That's your asteroids and meteorites. The earth is going to be shaken with earthquakes. He's already told you about a bunch of stuff on a social level. 5, people hating each other, persecution of the church, false Christ, false prophets, famines, pestilence, diseases, plagues. But then he says, and he's coming as fast as lightning, and he says, look, the sun's going to be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars will fall from the heavens, and the powers of heavens will be shaken, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man, coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And then you're going to hear, listen to this, he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So here come the angels to gather the redeemed. And Paul said that the dead in Christ are going to rise first, and us that are alive remain and be caught up forever to be with the Lord, and so shall we be with the Lord. Now listen to this. That's Matthew 24, 30. Remember that, the sign of the Son of Man. But in Mark 13, Jesus says it this way. If you go to Mark 13, verse 24, here's what he says. But in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. So he doesn't say you'll see the sign of him coming. It just says you'll see him coming. But Matthew says you'll see the sign of the Son of Man coming. So we get some kind of a heads up. Mark doesn't say that exactly. And Mark says also, then shall he send his angels, and they shall gather his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of earth to the uttermost part of heaven. Okay? And so the sky is going to turn red. We've heard Mike Farnell will talk about the sky turning red, the stars turning, there's going to be a sign in the heavens. And, of course, there's going to be all of these different situations that will develop. The sun will be darkened, the moon will turn to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord will come. So there's all these apocalyptic signs in the heavens. So any time, and we've been watching, we know wormwood's coming. We know wormwood is coming. We know 2 deep impacts are coming to hit the earth in Revelation 8. We know there's a war going to break out that will kill 1/3 of the world. So these signs are coming. Some of them, it says here, he says after tribulation. The question is he talking about the great tribulation or just the tribulation or the issues that are going on in the world at that time? That's always debatable between eschatology teachers. Because one place says after the tribulation of those days, then it says the moon will be darkened, and it says that people will have to flee in the wilderness and run, okay? And pray that your flight be not in the winter. So a lot of debate is it the tribulation period? Are we talking about the 7-year tribulation period? Or are we talking about a time of great tribulation, but not the ultimate tribulation period? It's questionable. It's debatable. I'm not going to, fall out on either one of those. I'm just saying Jesus specifically does say that, so it is an important point. And that means that when you see these things happening, so when you see meteorites crash into the earth, the water's heating up, earthquakes in divers places, severe thunderstorms and storms and straight line winds and large hail, when you see volcanic eruptions everywhere, and then all of a sudden you start seeing signs in the heavens, whether they be comets or some kind of, dwarf star. All these apocalyptic signs, you're in the end times. You're in the last days. And time is running out. So I'm going to let you go now because I'm hurting too much on that. But I think I wanted to share a little bit and just say to you, listen closely as Heidi was talking to Mike from the world. Listen closely. Mike specifically wanted to go back to this question that Heidi had mentioned to him early in the broadcast. He went back and said, did I answer this? And he wanted to be sure he talked about this red star, what they saw in Cape Town, South Africa. And he also wanted to be sure everyone knew that these signs in the heavens would be tied to this alien disclosure. They would keep tying these things together. And I think it brings strong delusion, and that's part of the confusion. And that's why we keep our eyes on Jesus and we keep looking. He said, lift up, when these things begin to come to pass, he said, look up and lift up your head for your redemption is drawn nigh. In other words, you're going to see the sign. Look up. You're going to see the sign of the coming of Christ. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Are you saved?